everyone. I'm Amy Belil. I'm from Georgian Bay General. My background is registered nurse, ED, and I work in informatics. I am co-leading with Elaine Hooper on the advanced clinical team, and I'm here to give you a demo on BMV, bedside med verification. So, new module for all of us, very exciting. We've been doing a lot of work with bedside med verification, working with pharmacy, and getting ready to and starting some early testing with our new devices. So our point of care devices. I am going to show you some slides. We recently are working on putting a video together. We had Maggie Johnson from GBGH. I'd say she was voluntold, but graciously and Pam from RVH able to get a video together and start putting some pictures together. And that video will be available. We're hoping in the next week or so after today's demo, they're going to take some more screenshots and be able to put that video together. And I thank Michael Jeffries, our patient that is in that video as well. So point of care devices, what are they? They are an enhanced mobile device that gives us the capabilities of enabling care providers to review patient lists, administer your medications on the medication administration record, your MAR, that electronic MAR, and documenting care. We can also document on our little handheld devices, and we're calling those our enhanced scanners. They look like the cell phone, and we can also do some quick documentation. Now, are you doing a head to toe on those documentation? No, but you're going to do rounding, you can do quick vitals, etc. And being able to be at that bedside and scan that patient and scan your medication for that double check it's just fantastic. The device is really, once we're getting training on it and finding our way through it, they will be easy to use. I will find that the younger generation, shall I say, will live by these devices. So let me just show you quickly before I actually get into scanning a few pictures of what the scanning looks like. All right. So here we got Maggie. The demo was done at RVH. So you will see that's an RVH. Wow. Oh, you can't. Hang on. Sorry. I have to flip back. Might help if I actually share the screen, huh? There we go. Do you see now?
Yes, Amy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we see Maggie. So what we have here is an RVH WOW, and Maggie is holding on to our enhanced scanner. So it is a Zebra device. You will see that Maggie's actually clicking on the little icon to open up the expanse on the device. It's very light. I have put it on my persons as well, like being able to just carry it around on my pants. The nurses will just have that kind of on them for their whole shift. Each nurse will have one. Been allocated to them throughout their day for med admin and for documentation. But it is light. It's definitely it's a cell phone as well, which can be used. The next screen, you will see that Maggie's going in to scan, mimic scanning her badge. Is at the back. It does have scanning capability, so you will do your tap on, tap off as well. You won't be putting in anything manually. And when you do open it up, it will open up. As you see, Maggie has now opened up the screen. So once she has scanned, it will open up to your patient list of patients that you have signed up for. Then we have the other scanners, which are we call them the regular scanners, just your point and click scanner. There's no documentation or anything that appears on these scanners. So you can see right here where Maggie's just scanning our patient's armband. And then you can see the laser scanning as well. And you can see just where her thumb is and her other finger. You just push on those side buttons and you start scanning away. And she's scanning the normal saline IV bag, as you can see. Then here we will show tomorrow the actual TAR demonstration, but here you can visibly see the scanning of the blood bag itself. There's two barcodes that need to be scanned in TAR, so she will be scanning the unit number at the top and then scanning the bag itself. And they scan quite nicely with these little scanners. These scanners, there isn't a picture of it actually sitting in its case, but they will be mounted to the wows as well. And just as a side note, the enhanced scanner, so that first one, which is the cell phone-like, is used for MedAdmin and documentation, but we cannot use it for TAR documentation. So for the transfusion documentation, we do have to use this one that you see on screen for that. It's not been built into those enhanced scanners yet, but maybe a future idea. And the enhanced scanners that I need to mention as well is they are being used by the ED module, the inpatient PCS, patient care systems, and the SIR module, so the operating room can also use for MedAdmin. But each department will have a WOW that is set up with at least one that is a dedicated, say, transfusion cart with these portable scanners as well. Okay, I will go back out. Okay, so I'm going to, for the purpose of this demonstration, we have an ED patient, this Kent GBGH Blue, that has meds already been put onto this patient. So there are a few different ways that medications can be administered through our devices. Unfortunately, today you're not going to be able to see me on camera doing the scanning, but I will walk you through it, and you will, as I am doing the scanning here, you will see the barcode show up when the patient's verified. You will see the actual barcode show that I did scan that medication, and be able to see the IV being started. Okay, so two ways. Physician can order the medication for us. So once the physician orders those meds or the IV for us, then we see the orders show up on our work list or on our trackers as acknowledged. So we have to acknowledge the medications that physician has ordered for us. We also can do scan to order. So scan to order is a verbal order is given to you, and you just go to your ADU, you pull out the medication, and then you can scan that patient and scan that med, and that med will scan onto your MAR. But for today's purposes, we have meds already put onto our patient. So I will click on the cell itself, the acknowledge, it will bring me to the MAR, or you can open chart and you can click on MAR as well. Or sorry, never mind. We're going to back that up. I'm acknowledging the medications right now. So again, just like acknowledging the medications, it'll be like I said earlier, like signing your medications to say I've acknowledged that I need to give that Ceftin Toradol and start that IV and acknowledge that. So right now I'm going to acknowledge all because I do want to admin all. And I click on acknowledge at the bottom and then I save. And then I can exit back to the tracker. What I am going to go do on that patient is I'm going to document the IV because I haven't started that patient's IV yet. And I don't have an IV, so we will add it. And we'll just do a peripheral line on that patient and we will save it. And then to document on that patient, I click on now, I click on document. I'm going to add the location for that IV. I'm just going to put it in the left wrist. And it'll be the first line I'm putting in. So we're going to say it's inserted. In all our documentation within ED nursing clinical documentation, we have our within defined standards documentation. So when I came back to reassess that IV site, I might say it's within defined. It might not be if that IV blew off for us, but for the purposes of today and right now, it's our first IV. We're going to say inserted peripheral IV. I am going to put in a 20, and that was my. I only had to attempt it once because I'm a good ED nurse that doesn't need to practice too much. Okay, so anyway, that would be my line that I am just putting in quickly. And then I'm going to flip over to my MAR now, because I know I have medications to administer. So we will see, this is what our MAR looks like. It's very clear. If there's any instructions or any comments regarding those medications, you will see anything that's, so like for this one example is separate administration from antacids and H2 antagonist by 2 hours. If there's anything special, like I said, regarding it from pharmacy, then they will add it in. Same with your sodium chloride, infuse over an hour. You will see that this is checked off as my active medications. I have my start times, that they are all active, and you can see that I have acknowledged. If you forget to acknowledge your medication, it doesn't stop you from administering it. You will get a pop-up and it'll say, do you want to still move ahead? You haven't acknowledged the med. You can say yes and acknowledge at that point, but I've already pre-acknowledged that patient, so we're good to go. So it doesn't look like, okay, we're not going to be able to administer the ketorolac. Unfortunately, I don't have the scanning for a 10 milligram. Okay. Aaron, I do have you on the line with me from pharmacy.
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know if you could add a 30, and I'll administer these other two first, but I only have a 30 injection. Yeah.
It is set for the 30 product. It's just the dose is 10, so it should still scan.
It still will scan? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll try this. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to scan my patient. All right. I got to make sure my armband. Okay. No, my armband doesn't want to cooperate with me, right? There we go. Oh, that one's scanned. Of course, it's not cooperating with me.
That's because you're doing a demo. So we're still working on our scanning testing with the system. If we did have a damaged wristband, we can actually manually barcode the patient's account number to verify the patient. That's going to be the exception rather than the rule. We'll focus on scanning those wristbands.
Thanks, Elaine. So once that patient scanned, and I mean, I'm not sure what the technical issue was there, but it did not scan. So we're just going to go with that was a damaged armband. So I can manually put in, like I just showed. And now you can see up in the top corner in red, patient verified. So that patient is now verified. You're not able to give that medication unless you've verified that medication. I've verified your patient. So let's try first. We are going to do the Sefton. Oh, all right. So because we added these medications yesterday, it is coming up that I am documenting past scheduled time. Do I want to continue? Yes. And I will, I don't know, say that the patient fell asleep. So you will now see that barcode appeared as I scanned that patient, and that I gave a 250 milligram dose at 10:16, and there's the barcode. So that medication has now been administered. Now we'll
Amy,
move
just
on.
one thing you might want to mention is it's actually not given yet. So while
Wow,
it's still green, yeah, just so that people know
until I
whenever they
save
see
it.
this
Sure.
green, exactly.
Exactly. Thank you, Connie. Yeah. So I mean, if I went now, let's just save that now. I would have to say okay and save, and then the barcode goes away, showing that I've actually administered it and physically give it to that patient. Thanks, Connie. So the IV itself here, we have a sodium chloride 0.9,000 mil to bolus. I've already started that IV on that patient. If I click on any of these cells, on the little icons, we have the medication detail. So you can look on any of your medications, so you can see the monograph, you can research up and look at any of the medications, and in here you have the detail to look at, the detail of that dose, you have the history of how it was given, when, anything regarding that, if there was previous doses. You can access your flow sheet from here as well. Again, the monograph, which it brings you to, and then we have these others grayed out right at the moment. Okay, so I can try again to administer the sodium. Now you will notice in the top corner that patient is still verified. If I was giving a bunch of medications, you do not need to keep re-verifying that patient. It will stay verified for 20 minutes. So your MAR will stay active for 20 minutes, which is good to know because you know that sometimes you're going to give a medication and you got to come back to it and you're not having to keep rescanning. Okay. Let's get that. Again, we're just getting that override. And you can see, let me just back out here, with the override reasons, whether the patient declined the med, product is not available, you can just put in a note if you had a reason that you actually wanted wasn't on here and that you needed, or any of these other reasons. Everything was just conditional on that blood pressure, glucose, heart rate, if there was any allergies related that weren't picked up. So for this purpose, we're just going to say the patient fell asleep. So what happens when you go to administer an IV? It opens up to the flow sheet. You will see on the IV site, because I've already documented on the IV itself, the IV site, it doesn't pre-populate in here. You do still have to click on it and then put in right wrist. Unfortunately, it doesn't fill in for you. But you will see that we are going to administer 1,000 and we are bolusing it at 999. And yeah, we're not going to do anything else on that one, and we are just going to bolus this medication. And you can see on anywhere in your MAR, when everything is green, like Connie had mentioned, with the barcode, whenever it's green, it's not been filed yet, and nothing's been started yet until you OK it. And then you OK. Again, you'll still get the green on the MAR until you OK it. And there's always an OK and a save. So again, it's just giving you that extra pop-up, making sure that that's still what you want to start, and we say save. So you will notice that I was talking about earlier, the gauge for the IV. So now this is a full gauge as this bolus is starting on that patient. And obviously physically, we have hung that bag. I scanned a barcode today for the sodium chloride, but you will scan your bags as well. So you'll scan your patient. Not only are you scanning your medications in your packages, but you also will be scanning your IV bags. Okay, so let's see if we can do this total. Our patient, you can see, is still verified. And there's our total. Okay, so the total came up, but you can also see what else showed up with our total, and that is our MAR pain assessment. There's a pain assessment and a reassessment here. So automatically, any pain medication, nothing it's attached to more your acute pain. So if you had an MS Cotton, anything long-acting, there will not be a pain assessment. If it's a medication that's been given routinely for pain, and not an acute pain as a ketorolac or a Tylenol that needs to be given for a patient or Dilaudid, then you'll have pain assessments attached. There are many other MAR assessments that are attached to your medications for blood pressures, etc.
And when you're first doing your entry for the medication, you'll enter your pain assessment, and then at a designated time, you'll be prompted for the reassessment of that patient's pain on the MAR.
Thanks. So you would free text in the pain location. You would put in your pain intensity. We just put in numeric. If you had any other comments that you needed to put in, this is a free text area. And then you would file that. Your reassessment will pop up on your patient and will come up. Oh, I didn't do the, I had to enter the 10. So that came up because I scanned a 30 milligram and we only ordered a 10. But for that would not pop up on yours because you would be actually scanning the actual bottle of Tordo or Torlark. Okay, but you can see now that I've scanned it and it's telling me that I'm going to give, because I have a 30 milligram vial, that I am going to give 0.3333 mils of that vial, as I am only giving 10 milligrams IV for that patient. Every drug, as you will see, will have always have the trade name, and it's highlighted in blue as well. And then I will save that. And so all my medications have been administered. You can see my gauge down here for my IV is now starting to move as that bolus has isn't going into that patient. So I come back to my tracker just to show you what the IV looks like on the tracker. On that patient, it shows my sodium chloride 1,999 bolus going through. In 55 minutes, it will be done. And you can see the gas gauge moving there. Okay, so those are the only medications I have on there to administer. Elaine, is there something else that we would want to touch on or go into, or to show them? Or Connie, just from your, if you have anything to add. Or Carol?
I'm not sure if you want to just show them how you could demonstrate what would happen if you had to slow the IV down, Amy. So if the IV was going interstitial or there's pain at the site, if you could just demonstrate what that looks like.
Going back into my flow sheet.
Or you could do it from the infusion, whichever you liked on the main screen there of the MAR.
Just go down to 500.
Yeah, sure.
So you can edit your doses or your rates, is what Connie was wanting me to show.
So if you save this, Amy, then we can just pop over to the EMR and go back to open chart. Yeah, so on the EMR here, sorry, my apologies.
No, I just wanted to show them as well that you can see that it's changed to the 500.
So for care providers who need to review the information for the patient, the infusions will show up under I&O when that volume is completed, so a 50 cc bag or 1,000 cc bag. And then under the medication panel as well, if physicians or other care providers want to see medications, they can look under the medication panel.
I do have a couple other barcodes. I'm just going to see if I can scan to order one. Let's see if that'll pop up to show them as well. I can do my fentanyl. So my patient is still verified. Nope. Okay.
There will be some areas where a physician may have a written paper order, and but we need to administer medication. And in those cases, we will use the scan to order functionality, which means that we'll be able to scan the medication, it will appear on the patient's MAR, and then we can document our administration from that. For our inpatient areas, the majority of our orders are anticipated that they will be entered by the physician, verified by pharmacy, and then we will administer in the way that Amy's just demonstrated. We have a couple of questions. I don't know, Amy, if we're ready for those yet.
Yeah, and I can just show you. I mean, I've already administered this medication, but you can click directly on the cell. So if you needed to, if the patient refused a medication and just for whatever reason, they returned that cup back to you and said, I'm not taking this medication, then you could come in here and you can click on the cell and select undo. And and put in the reason that the patient refused. And then the date and time is removed. And then you can select from that was not given for that patient. Go ahead with questions, Elaine.
Okay, Rob Farrell, you have your hand up. I don't know if that was from the previous call or not, if you have a question for us. Okay, you may have been called away. We have a call. Sorry?
No, I was just going to add that. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
The hand up was just an accidental click on the screen.
Oh, sorry. You just wanted to say hi. Okay.
We have a question from Natalie Sherritt regarding NICU and PEDS. Will EB milk and donor milk be on the EMAR, or will it be in a different location?
It will be on the EMAR.
And there will be barcodes so that they can be scanned as well.
That's correct.
Correct. We do have Erin from pharmacy as well on the line, so if we have any pharmacy related questions.
We did have a question from Catherine Van Helm about the CPOP pain assessment tool being used in critical care areas. So that would, we would document that on the patient's work list as opposed to on the MAR at this time.
Right.
I think that's all the questions that I have, unless anybody has any others they would like to address.
Jackie's got her hand up. I'm not sure if you saw that, Elaine.
No, I couldn't see that one. Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Amy. I'm just wondering, with scan to order, I'm not completely clear on that process. What's the quality assurance on that? So if a nurse scans to order, how do we document there was truly an order? Like, what's the process to make sure there's an actual order? Like when for inpatients, when nurses override and take things out of Pyxis in the night, we have a report that's run and we double check it to make sure there's orders that correspond to that Pyxis vend.
Right.
So I'm wondering with scan to order how that process works.
It's Carol. So that when you scan your order, it actually brings you into the order entry screen and you have to choose your order source.
Okay.
So it could be written, as Elaine said, because in the infusion clinics where there's multiple ways I get meds and patients bring their own in, they may be scanning the vial and the bag, and then they have to prompt it to put in it as a source of written order. Or it could be that you might be having lots of activity happening and you're scanning to order because it's a verbal order. And then you would have to choose the source of verbal or telephone, and it would go to the physician's sign queue. The same as when you put an order in.
Okay.
It's just all it really does is save you the step of going to order entry as a separate routine, ordering it, and then coming over here to document the med. You scan it, it sends you to order entry, you file the order, and then you're on the MAR to document it.
Thank you.
And the safety of that is that you're actually scanning and the system is recognizing that drug.
Okay.
The only other thing, Amy, is if you look at your Ketorolac, you can see that in the bubble where you did your MAR assessment, and then you can talk about the reassessment time that you're seeing there. If you click on the bubble, you'll see that that's the pain assessment you did. And then below there, it says assess 1051, and that's telling you when the next pain assessment or next reassessment is due. And you'll see that this particular one is only one of many different assessments that may be attached to meds. Depending on the type of medication you're giving, you may have to just document a blood pressure or an insulin. What else do we have, Elaine?
We have the glucometers.
Yes, we have so glucose, INR, sites for nitro patches on and off, site of injections for sub-Q or IMs. There's a number of assessments that will be attached to medications, and typically it are things that we are currently documenting now. We have two more questions that have come up. They would like a clarification for co-signing of medications. So I believe there's two types of co-signing of medications. There are medications where we actually need two nurses, one who is doing the original administration, a second who will verify and who will input their PIN number as a co-sign, so that they are both looking at the medication, looking at the patient information at the same time. And then we also have a co-sign where we are asking a second nurse or a second pair of eyes to view that medication, and we call that co-sign no PIN. And it really is just that safety check where we are making a change or a med that doesn't need a formal co-sign, but that we are documenting that has occurred. Does that help with the questions, Natalie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Leanne Stratton. After you scan medication and it is flagged on the record, do you have to hit document to save prior going back to the tracker? Yes, you need to complete all your documentation within your MAR before you go back to the work list or to the tracker. It will stay, if it's green, you have to continue to save until it's black again.
I think the thing on that, Elaine, is like some people think they have to go save right away. Like Amy said, if you had these 3 meds and you were giving them all at once, you could literally just keep scanning until you were done. And then once you were done, you would hit your OK and save, and then you'd be completed. Everything would turn black on your screen, so you would know that it was all administered. So you don't have to go in and out of each medication. You can do all of them that are scheduled at the time and then do the OK and save.
Yes, you're right. Thanks, Connie.
Yeah.
A couple other things,
Thanks.
Amy, that are just quick reminders for people. As the MAR gets longer, depending on the unit that you work in, you can see some of the things across the top there where we currently have the check mark for the active. Just up a little bit, Amy. Yeah. So it says IV. So if you were looking for a particular medication that was an IV, you could literally just check the IV box beside IV and only the IV medications would appear. So it helps you kind of sort through some of your medications. Again, you could do it with PRNs. The other thing that you'll see sometimes on your MAR is that you'll get a big yellow box that appears across the medication. What the big yellow box is that means that medication has been discontinued. So you'll literally see it goes all the way across the big box for yellow, and that's a sign for something that's been discontinued. The other thing is when you see kind of any of those symbols that Amy was showing you with the pencil, that's kind of how you know things are independent double check. So you can see if you had 2 pencils on a medication sitting in the medication cell, that would mean that there was a cosign that was needed. So those are some of the things and some of the icons. And as you go through your training, you'll have all of those kind of tips and tricks about what each one of those things actually mean.
So here's what Connie was just mentioning, the big yellow that you'll see. It sticks out, it's very bright, and it shows you here that medication is no longer active and it's discontinued.
Yep. The other thing, if you click on the word medication, you can sort your medications alphabetically. So there are some ways to kind of sort depending on how you like to see your medications appear as well.
And one thing with anything within Meditech and with Expanse, you'll see, not even just with your MAR, if you ever see the arrow pointing down, that is a sort feature as well.
I think one of the other advantages that the electronic MAR bring to the table is that when we are transferring a patient or to another hospital or even between floors, the last administered date and time is available for us to see, so that and we can pull that into some of the reports when we're sending a patient out on a transfer or to another facility.
Yeah, you'd see that. So Amy, maybe if you go back to your other patient and you end that bag, because the bolus is finished, even though it maybe is finished.
Nope, not yet.
We can make it finish because we're not going to give the whole bag, and then you can go to the EMR and show the INO and the medications panel that Elaine was just talking about, where you'd see the last admin time. So in Meditech, you have to start every time you hang a bag, you have to start it, and every time you finish a bag or waste a bag, you have to end it.
So I'm just going to clear I'll just clear it, I guess.
Yeah, so we can give
the original.
We'll say the bolus went very quickly.
I mean, this is
going to give me
a
pop-up error. A pop-up error. It'll let me still do it. And we can show in the INOs. No, it doesn't matter. Okay. Do I have to? Nope.
Your intake is 0. You need to put your intake in so that it will stop.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you will see here that we're infused, and again, we're green until I save that. It's infused, and we will save it. If I come back I gave 100, over 1,000. There we go. So this is my INOs, and gave the patient a little extra than that 1,000 mils.
If you click on the medication panel as well, Amy, just below INO, we can actually see, and this is for any staff with access to the EMR. They'll be able to see the medications and then that last dose administration date and time. And as well as whether the drug is active or not.
And you can sort those. So medication, again, if you remember from the first session, is the above is your EMR and this is your viewing. So if I went into the MAR and clicked on it, because this actually was an error of ours in the beginning, you cannot document on this medication. This is only to view, even though it looks done. This is your MAR. You can't document here. You actually have to open your MAR down here in your doing section. Okay. And if you had any, I didn't go into your titrations or infusions, but this is your infusion record. You can see we only had the one going, but if you had a labetalol or you had an infusion going, then you would be documenting on your infusion record.
Amy, I'm not seeing any other hands or questions in the chat. I don't know if anybody had anything they wanted to ask. So I think with this one, we may be finishing a little bit early.
Do I want to take this last few minutes and just review, go over that admit I have in Emerge? That admit patient?
Sure, Amy, I think that would be great because I don't see too much turnover of individuals from the last session. So that would be a great use of time.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just revert back to ED nurse again. So we have this patient, demo ED1. So what we did is we previously had the admit orders added by our Dr. Ma, so that we didn't have to have that time lapse of physician putting in those orders. So in the new state, nursing and clerks, the same as you have now. Once an admit has been decided by the physician, we will put in the admit request. Now the physician will complete their admission orders, and what we'll see on our tracker pop up is admit in this bright pink color, and that will alert the nurse clerk to go in and start your admit request. So we have this admit button over on the side that we click on. And nursing will only have this admit request button that you will click on. You will come in here and we will pick the medical service. We're just going to say the patient is, we'll just say the patient's being transferred. Patient is already in ED hold. And then we have this new section over here where, in current system on your bed request, it's on the bottom. It's some fields that you have to scroll through and a whole bunch of pages. So what the registration team has done is they've talked with all 4 hospitals and come up with a bed attribute lookup. So what we have here is if, say, it is a patient needs to be close to the nursing station, letting Bed Allo know kind of some attributes that need to be considered for when those patients are being admitted. Now, take in mind that we do have some that are RVH specific. We do have a couple actually that are Collingwood specific, but again, we're sharing the 4 sites, so you will see some that are bracketed just RVH. I'm not sure, but if registration has a few more to add to this. But for right now, for this purpose, we're just going to say that we have these 3 that we want Bed Allo to know about. So when I save this, refresh. I'm not on my right patient. Hang on, sorry. We're going to redo that. I went on the wrong patient who was already admitted. Bad nurse. I was wondering why that patient needed to be transferred. I want that patient to be admitted close to the nurse's station, closest to bathroom, and closest to exit. And then I will file that. So this is what I wanted to populate, the admit request. So this goes out to Bed Allo and to registration, depending on your site and what time of the day it is, as to who's doing your admits or your clerks. So the admit request has been filed. So now that has gone over to the registration team. I'm not sure that I have registration with me any longer.
I'm here.
Whitney, oh, look at, thank
I'm
you.
here.
You came back.
I did.
All right, so Whitney's going to admit this patient for us because you can see we have these admit orders that we need to process, but before the nurse can process those orders in our new future life, that patient has to be admitted first. So they will be admitted to that ED hold room. We need the new armband for that patient. So we need to take off the ED armband and put on the admit armband to be able to scan the medications for those patients. So when I click on that admit button, I'll just do a preview on it while we wait for Whitney to admit the patient. You'll see a pop-up that says a pending transfer exists on this patient. Would you like to proceed? Now we've called it admit on the tracker, but from here on in, you are going to see the wording of transfer orders. So transfer orders is your admit orders from your physician. So if you ever hear the physician say manage transfer orders, that's them processing their orders. And on our side, the nursing end, we will see transfer orders. So we need to click on transfer orders. I don't have a height and weight on this patient or allergies, unfortunately, so that's why I'm getting that pop-up. We will say written, as it's electronic, but it will be written. They're written per se, I guess you could say. Transfer orders up at the top, you will see that it's highlighted in purple and there's a flag. So that's letting us know that that physician has put in a bunch of orders for us. So we have an admit transfer order, and then the physician put in a bunch of orders for us. So in ED, what we've decided as a group was that we would process all orders, but the ED nurse will only deal with, we say, the stat and the nows and what is needed on that patient for the time that the duration of their stay while in ED. Could be an hour, right? Could be 12 hours. But what we know for sure we need to deal with those stat orders and the nows, get the IVs going. But by processing all the orders now, what we are doing is we are sending off all the medications to pharmacy because we will have a 24-hour pharmacist processing those orders and being able to verify those orders for us even through the night. So those medications will all be verified on your MAR. So even in ED, which is amazing to have all that done because we don't have that currently. So this is, a great safety net and fee for us. And you will only have the meds on the MAR after you process this transfer order that need to be given from admission on. So any meds that had been given in ED will have that yellow discontinued. They'll be at the bottom of your MAR, and everything that's current and that needs to be administered will be at the top of your MAR. I will not process these transfer orders though until the admission is done. There is we won't get into it, but there's a big problem if we process these transfer orders prior to that patient being admitted. We need the orders to be attached to the admit account. Yes?
The patient's been admitted.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so what you can see now is the Whitney has admitted that patient for us, and the status event is now admitted patient with a comment. So when we flip on the comment, we see that that patient is going to 2 North, and that's the room that it's been assigned to. Thank you, Whitney.
Amy, I'm not sure if you'll get to this, but if you have an opportunity, if you could show a little bit of the TOA process with that's using the snapshot.
Yeah, that's right after my transfer. Thank you. Okay, so what we can do now, we know we have an admitted patient. You can see that our account has now changed to a GA account or a VA or a, versus an A for an admitted versus your E for emerge. So we will click on that admit. We will come in here and we'll see that transfer flag. On the bottom, we see the process transfer button. We will click that and process these transfer orders. It's asking us, do you want us to transfer all orders and have everything reviewed? And we say yes. So all those orders are filed. The status is now ordered, and they've all been gone off to the departments. The other benefit to this as well for our patients is, say a physio referral was ordered, I mean in current state, if that patient didn't get to the floor for 12 hours, that physio department wasn't even going to know about that order. You know, a lot of those orders we've never processed and emerge. So even just by clicking that process transfer, all those orders have now gone out to those other departments. And help speed up care for that patient. I'm not saying that that physio is going to come to ED, but they now know and it's on their list for that patient to be seen. Okay, so our patient has now been ordered, admitted. So I will come back and you will see that admit is now gone, and it comes off your tracker now that you've processed those transfer orders. Okay, so what Elaine had just mentioned about the TOA, so we're going to just say, hey, 2 North is coming down to get our patient. So now we're going to give report. So I'm going to open the chart, go to my work list, and we have a transfer of accountability assessment, and that is our SBART reporting off on our patient. Don't have a lot of documentation on this patient, but I'll just talk you through it. So the ED snapshot. So if you click on snapshot, this is a view of what has been documented on that patient in ED. So unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a lot of documentation. But if I had documentation on here, the vitals would show up here as well. If for what would be documented, if there was any IV lines, any assessments that had been documented, etc. We got pain, precautions, in and outs. So this is, like I said, a view only. So you can see on the side as you have your EMR, that viewing section. So everything that's red. So as you're reporting off to that staff, you're going over every section of the snapshot. You're reviewing your full EMR. You are going over the medications given, the INOs, the vitals, etc. Any reports, medications, lab, all of that's been documented too. I will click on reports while I'm here because I want to also show you that this is where the physician's documentation will show for you as well. So we have an admission note here by Maria, and we have an internal consultation report as well. So if we go back to snapshot again, so we finish up that report for that nurse, and then we head back to our work list, and then we document that we've done that to our TOA. So if we go in our TOA, you will see that we have the SBART, and we have it listed out here that we document to, we document to the situation, and then once we confirm that we've gone through allergies, diagnosis, etc., we can say we've documented and spoke to situation. We have given report on the background, the assessment, any of the recommendations that we've documented, that we document the transfer of care as occurred, and that we reviewed the snapshot, EMR, and summary for that patient. And of course, we would go over summary. Summary will be reviewed tomorrow. Mode of transport, if that patient's going by stretcher, a disposition of belongings, patient-informed facility not responsible for their belongings. We've added that in on everybody's transfer of care. If the belongings have gone in with anyone, you do have a text field here that you could text in. And, did you send the medications home with the patient, or were they sent to pharmacy? If it was a phoned report, we could say yes, that we gave a phoned report, but for today we didn't. Transferred to, my patient's going to 2 North. And then report given to, so this is a lookup to the provider dictionary. So I'm giving report to Elaine. And then I could put in Elaine's name. Now we are sitting side by side giving this report for the report given to and the receiving nurse. We are, I'm going to put in my old mnemonic. Okay, we're just going to say that Janice Bell gave for right now, for purposes, so I don't have to go look up my name. So in ED, either the nurse comes down, you're doing telephone report, or I know at Headwaters that they bring the patient to the floor. So depending on, typically in ED, it's the ED nurse that'll have the snapshot and TOA pulled up. You'll give report, and then the nurses will put in their mnemonics here and do the lookup to say that, yes, I received report, or yes, I gave report for that patient. And then we will save it. We were having discussions as well in processes for each site, is if you did give that telephone report, would we put in both mnemonics here? And in current state, we do put in the mnemonics, but when the nurse down on the floor gets those patients, they can pull up that transfer of accountability as well, ensure their name is in there, and accept that transfer of accountability, and say that they're accepting that patient. And that everything that they received is what they see on the computer as well. And in all the assessments and documentation is there for them.